Good morning. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Buenos dias. We are here again with Coffee and Pan Dulce, and let's welcome one of our best character of the week. Come on in. Welcome, Mr. Well, not Mr. I don't even know what you are.
Ms.
No, it's not Miss either.
It's a person.
Whitey.
Good morning, bless your heart. Good morning, everyone. Happy Holy Week.
I was almost choking from the
Exactly.
hairspray there.
Exactly.
Bless your heart.
Yes, bless your heart. Welcome, everyone, to Coffee and Pan Dulce. Today is April the 17th. It is, for those who do celebrate it, this is Holy Week. My family celebrates it. Some families do not.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I believe Hanukkah starts on Friday. Is that those who are correct? But I think also... Yeah. Well, we'll find all that information out, but whatever you celebrate.
Friday is Friday.
Not
That's
Hanukkah.
right.
Hanukkah is in December.
All right.
Getting your holidays.
There's something that we're attending next week.
Hakamantra, or
with
something like
church.
that.
Do you remember with Dr. Sachs's husband?
Oh, it's a food tasting for. I can look it up.
Well, as she looks it up, let's start our entry. So, welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce. It is Wednesday, April 17th. I want to welcome everyone who's watching us on Facebook Live, but also who will be watching us later on your other social media applications and on YouTube as well. I'm Christian Cano, and we're going to start from our right because she is always right.
Even though I'm left.
Yes.
Ruth Perez, good morning. Ruth Perez, Community Advocate.
I'm Jeff Scott, man about town. I'm very disappointed in the fact that Julian Assange has been picked up and is in jail, but we'll talk more about that later.
The WikiLeaks guy. Yeah, okay.
I'm Tera Long. I'm a community advocate.
Okay. Well, I want to welcome you. Okay. All right. Well, once again, welcome. Today, we actually are going to talk about, before we talk about the issue, let's go ahead and, yes, it is called a Seder.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing a Seder next week with
Alan Sachs.
Alan Sachs is doing a Seder. So those who know, maybe you can tune in and tell us what a Seder is. It'll be my first one to attend. We are completely off script, but that's okay because
we're trying to figure out holidays.
Yes, because we can be. And I just realized, and then as we're talking, Ruth is going to secretly walk over there, grab the scripts for everyone and the Constitution,
secretly,
because I forgot to bring them at the table as we were starting. We were so excited about my new coffee maker
That's right.
that we are completely out of whack today, and so
well, in the interest of constantly improving the production values of the show, we wanted to make sure that Chris's coffee maker was doing exactly what it's supposed to do, that his recipes for coffee
that actually look like coffee
are followed to the letter so that we can get a good quality brew. So we want to thank Chris.
He recycles the coffee grounds.
Not for me.
So for people who are watching who have no idea what we're talking about, because I know you're going, what the heck are they talking about? I just got a new coffee maker. I'm really excited. We've had our coffee maker for like 12, 13 years or whatever. And this new coffee maker, it's really cool. And I didn't realize all this time I had not been using the appropriate amount of coffee, the recommended coffee. So my coffee has always come out really light. I've been ripping everyone off on coffee. And so now that I've got a new coffee maker, it's really, really dark. And I was like, why is it so dark? And I realized,
this guy.
So that is the, all right.
But at least
that let us know that every day, no matter how old you could be, you still gotta learn something new.
That's right.
This is.
That's right. But you fixed the error.
Yes.
We've moved on. We've got good coffee.
Good actions work.
So we do have good coffee, and once again, we're going to talk about a couple of issues today. And
But let's do our toasting.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
salute to
Since
coffee.
our coffee.
We're so off.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
And today's Pan Dulce is Americanized. Well, actually, my family made donuts as well, but not with the sprinkles on it. Today's Pan Dulce is donuts, so please help yourself as I talk about today's. I was going to put one of those. No, you can have it.
Okay, yay!
There was only one of those. That's
Okay.
I'll have the sprinkles. So
You'll have,
even
you'll
though I
have the
won't be able to eat them.
sprinkles.
All right.
No, you better eat it.
We're talking.
There's 2 chocolate ones. If you guys are fighting
Yeah,
over
but
the
see, one of them
chocolate,
is filled with cream or something.
Cream or something.
Yeah.
that one right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. All right. All right. Here we go.
Well, you know I'm not competitional with donuts, right?
Oh!
So anytime I reach for this, it's not that I should be considered competition.
All right. We're gonna talk about the CMPD Franklin video, which
Oh, Lord.
unfortunately was released on Monday. We're going to talk about that, and that's really what we're going to talk about. We're going to do a very brief NCO9 update, and then also the Constitutional Code of the Week. So, once again, today is Wednesday, and we're going to go ahead and start off with the CMPD Franklin video that was released by the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department of the unfortunate killing of Mr. Franklin, a person here in Charlotte. That happened March 25th, I believe, was it happened at the Burger King. And that video was released by court order. It was not released because CMPD released it willingly.
It was demanded.
Judge Donnie Hoover released it.
That's right. That is correct. And that was released. There was a press conference before it was released by the mayor and many of our city council members. And then it was released, and I saw it twice on Monday before an event that we went to talking about stopping the violence in Charlotte. And it was very unfortunate. Anyway, for those who have not seen it, we will post that on our Facebook page after this show, later after this show. Please be aware that it is blurred out, the actual killing of the gentleman for our protection. But it does show what happened before that. It shows a very brief on what happened after that, because CMPD says that's all they have, which we can talk about. So who wants to start off with who has seen the video and what your thoughts are about the video?
Well,
Okay.
Go ahead, Tara.
Tara.
Okay. So my initial reaction was that I cried. So I cried because a compliant man who is literally following the cops' directions lost his life. I cried for his family, who will have to grieve and survive without knowing his love. I cried for the cop, whose natural instinct was to shoot at a movement rather than a threat. And I cried for her family because it's public and there will be public accountability. And I cried for the public who actually had to watch this and go through it with everyone, because this is hard for all of us. It's not just hard for the immediate surrounding members. So that was my initial reactions.
Well, I saw it too, and it is disturbing. And I actually tried to get my daughter to watch it. I said, she was going to be going out in the evening during some of the protests. I said, people are going to be very angry about this, and it's pretty clear when you watch it that you can have Tara's reaction, which is totally understandable, but you can also be very angry, and you want to show other people that this is the reality on the street right now. And people are going to have different reactions, so you want to be very cautious if you're going to be out in public on a warm night and there's people in the streets who are very angry. You're going to have to watch your guard, because this is going to upset people. She wouldn't watch it. She just says, I've seen these cop videos before, and they really upset her so much that she won't watch it. So that's a reaction that people have too. They just want to shut it off.
Yep.
They don't want to see it.
Yeah.
And just let me add that, and we can talk a little bit more about this later, because none of us are really experts in police procedures, and we don't really know what they feel, what they're supposed to be doing, what their training is. But the thing that I continue to ask about, and people have told me that this is what they're trained to do, is all of the shouting to drop the weapon, right? It's and there's some term for it which I'm not familiar with, but it's just this cacophony of sound. Put your gun down, drop the weapon, surround them, so that. But you don't know how they're going to act. When someone's surrounded. Why? It seems to me I've seen movies where hostage taking situations are about de-escalation, and they're just saying, we're going to be calm until you decide what it is you want to do. And so I guess when a person's got a gun, it's the opposite. You want to shout them down. You want to say, hey, we're busy. We're here. We've got guns trained on you. We want you to do something. And the person can, they either freeze or they don't know how to react. And in this case, it's pretty clear that he was just making the movement, and he wasn't pointing the gun or anything. So this is just another tragedy which is going to affect a lot of people in a very in very different ways.
I also watched it, and I guess everyone has a different view of stuff, but it all comes to one conclusion, that it's painful.
Yeah.
It's hurtful. Me being a Latina, having boys at a certain age, my oldest one is 26, and it really touched my heart because, this gentleman was, like Tara mentioned, he was following. After all, he was right there by the door of his car following directions. He was not pointing at no one. Now, from the other side, of CMPD, of course, that's something that I've been screaming out loud. We need to get better training on both sides, to the community as well. We need to get better training. I understand it's a female. I understand, she has her own normal instinct. But there was other cops around it as well.
Exactly.
So why did she have to shoot when he was not harming anyone? That's the way I felt. And on top of that, okay, let's allow CMPD to shoot. Why do they have to shoot to death?
Yes.
Why can they just do another movement, try to use a taser, try to use something else than a gun to kill someone at this point? To y'all, it could be just the second or third life. To me, it's more, because we also had an Hispanic killed by a private detective 2 years ago. Then we had Lamont as well. We had another one, and now this one. We have to understand also that there's a lot going on with medical disturbance, mentally.
Mental illness.
Yes, mental illness. And it seems like nothing is accord. I guess the CMPD understands and knows about it, but they're not being trained to how to deal with this kind of situations. It could have been my brother.
Yeah.
However, my brother in 2016 had to put everyone, CMPD, Special Force, one of the ones that had the big old tanks, for 8 hours. He came out on the news.
Oh.
He barricaded my mother's apartment, and we end up negotiating with him until 4 o'clock in the morning, since 8 at night. But let me tell you what, my brother is Anglo. He's white. He's an American. Okay, there's a big difference, and that's what I've been noticing.
Yes.
And that has to stop. That really has to stop.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I didn't know that, but I thank you for sharing. It's important for people to hear everyone else's personal, how they have responded to this, and kind of like y'all, I was also disappointed. Let's say disappointed. It was hard to watch. As Chief Putney said himself yesterday morning, that it was like a punch in the gut. It is what he
Absolutely.
said, which I appreciated. Even though there's many things that I believe that we need to improve on. A lot of things we need to improve on with CMPD and how they've handled this, how they handled the event in 2016, the Charlotte Uprising event. He calls it the Charlotte Unrest. I call it the Charlotte Uprising. It's interesting how we differently term this. But I do think that one of the things that we do have to all admit, regardless of what you think of this CMPD or whatever the case may be, in my view, it was not a justified killing.
Yes.
And I don't believe, I'm a pro-life individual, but I'm a pro-all-life individual. And everyone can, decide what they think about that or whatever. I believe all life is precious, and I believe that we have to do everything possible to prevent the loss of life. Meaning, in this situation, the first thing I thought of was of course, I attended the event on Monday evening. with Charlotte Uprising was there, but Cass organized it, and it was originally an event. There was 7 events around the city, I believe, and this one was downtown. I went to that event, and then I went to the community forum yesterday that was brought by the Community Relations Committee, and had Chief Putney, the mayor, and many of the city council members. My city council member, Ed Driggs, was not there. Neither was the gentleman from District 7. Tariq was not there.
He's from District 6.
District 6, okay.
And
I'm 7. I forgot, yes. They were not there, which I thought was very unfortunate, because when a city needs to come together, when they don't attend, and they represent pretty much South Charlotte, they give the impression to the rest of our community and the rest of our Charlotte that it's their issue. It's something they need to work out. This is all of our issue. And one of the things that I was grateful for, it was the first time I ever heard the chief, and I've been to several events where he's been, it's the first time I ever heard him acknowledge even a little bit of no, I don't want to use the word fault, because they're afraid to use that for some reason. A little bit of, they're humans. And what he said was, when this first came out, he said this was justified, the person had a gun, and the person was aggressive. Now that the video has been released, he is now saying, the DA has not determined whether this is justified. I'm not here to determine, this is, so it's interesting. So of course my thinking is, imagine all of the videos we haven't seen.
Yes.
And Sebastian was there and made a comment, because he was here in 2016 and asked for the resignation of the chief because of how they handled that as well. And Sebastian made a very good point. He said, we wouldn't be having these had the video not been released. Because after March 25th, we were told, everyone don't come to conclusions,
don't come to conclusions.
This, even though the chief hinted that there was nothing that was done wrong by the police officer.
That they did everything properly.
Now that we've seen the video, it's like, well, what happened was, and it's unfortunate, because that's the reason why people mistrust police.
Yes.
That's the reason why people mistrust government, is because it's like you're pulling teeth out of them. If you just told us
there's no transparency.
Yes.
That's what we need.
So governments have secrets.
Yes. And it's interesting because
governments have secrets that they don't want anybody to know about. And they're willing to go to great lengths to hide those secrets.
But you know what? In a way, I understand that. I think everyone has a secret. Everyone.
Yeah.
Even though government, households, anything, anybody can have a secret. However, if we will learn how to be transparent, if you're, like when we were talking last week, you're applying for a job, you know what you're going to be into. So as a chief, as soon as he took the seat, Scott Lamont took place.
Yeah.
What happened? Then the next one, and then the next one, now this one.
Yeah.
What else do we need? How, as a community, how many more lives are going to be paying a price until we start doing some changes?
So that was something that I thought about, was we can look at our policy, and I think you mentioned it as well. Like, we don't have to shoot to kill. Not all countries, some countries don't even carry weapons. Okay? And why didn't they shoot his arm rather than shoot him into the chest to kill?
Or tranquilizer.
Or a tranquilizer. There are different.
The beanbags they shoot.
Something,
the beanbags.
small, whatever.
Rubber bullets.
A taser,
Yes.
rubber bullets, a taser.
There are different ways to handle it. I also want to be sensitive that I understand that law enforcement are going out and risking their lives for $50,000 a year, which to me is not a lot of money to be put in this situation.
Yeah.
But I also want to be mindful that as a community, we can fight for better gun laws,
Better policies.
moms on demand, better policies to help protect everybody, our police officers and our victims, because there were so many victims.
Yes.
It's when one person gets shot, it's not the person that gets shot that's really being harmed. It's their families. It's the law enforcement. It's the community. It's everyone.
Something that really, really caught my attention was this. When the police officers showed up, they had several 911s called. And it also has to do a lot with the community, the way they put it out there. they mentioned, because you can hear their 911's call saying that he was going off, that, you know, there was another call saying there's a gentleman that wants to hostage his girl. I mean, you gotta understand that as a community, we have to kind of watch out and how we express ourselves sometimes. Because, you know, they went out thinking they're going into a high risk situation.
Yeah, but the police, in theory, should have some training about the way that the calls come in, and we know that
Yes.
people get
Yes.
hysterical.
And
Oh, there's an
also-
active shooter, there's a hostage
Yes.
taken. And it
And
might not be
also-
that at all.
There was a gentleman inside that vehicle
Yeah.
as a
Which
passenger,
is
right
maybe-
next to him.
Yes.
That could have been shot.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
and I'm assuming, I don't know, we would love to interview him.
Yeah.
He was probably taking care of the situation. He was kind of calming them down. I think he
The-
was talking to him.
right.
He was a manager.
The understanding that I had from intending not to interrupt you
Mhm.
was that the gentleman that was in that car was the manager of
Mhm,
Burger
of
King,
Burger King.
and that he was praying with him.
Mm.
Now, I don't know if that's correct, but a family member that was at the Monday event said that he was kneeling down praying. He was trying to calm him down and talk
Yeah.
to him. So obviously he was disturbed. Well, I don't say
It
obviously,
was
but it's
disturbed.
to the
Mhm.
person who was watching that, he was disturbed. I think that the important thing to take away from this, several things. First of all, as you mentioned, and I'm not sure if anyone will agree with this, there's a very big difference, not just in Charlotte, but in many growing cities where it is becoming more diverse.
Mhm.
There is a very big difference on how we're treated by police, law enforcement, whether you are a person of color and whether you're not. Those of us who live in South Charlotte are treated differently than
Yes.
people who live other places.
Right, so there's a small town versus new big city
Exactly.
dynamic that everybody has to be conscientious of.
And I'll speak on that as a white person. So I do live in Northwest Charlotte, and I got my last infraction with the law. I believe I was 21 years old.
Wow.
So as a white female, I don't encounter police officers. I also try to do the speed limit and obey all the laws, but at the same token, I don't interact with them.
Oh, you're a goody two-shoes.
I am a
aren't you?
goody two-shoes. People say I drive like a grandma.
Well,
but
that's okay.
But you can also get
But
pulled over by driving as a grandma. I got
Yeah.
pulled over by driving it slow.
and I
Well,
think
you are, Grandma.
what it,
Not at that time. You know what I'm saying? It depends your facial, and you're
that's what
right.
I'm trying to say. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm white, and
Yeah.
so when I hear you guys say that, I think, wow, I've never had interactions with the law enforcement. I will tell you one story though, that my son was Hispanic. My son is Hispanic. I adopted. He's from Mexico, and he was pulled over one day for going a little bit too fast, and the police officer handled it really well. Like he called me and was like, "You can take away your son's Game Boy."
The police officer called you?
The police officer called me and said, "Where is he going?" And I said, "He's going to work."
Is this CMPD?
CMPD. He said, "Where is he going?" I said, "He's going to
shock.
work." Yeah. And he said, "You can take away his Game Boy or I can take him to jail." And I said, "It's gone. 6 months."
That's funny.
Hearing that story, it's mixed for me. Because the events that I have been to, and
Oh,
that we
God.
go to many times, and we hear our neighbors
There's
who
no
are
opportunity to call.
darker
And I
than
get it.
am.
I get it. I get it.
And they can't even imagine having that kind of privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Privilege insofar as having the courtesy, even that is incredibly exceptionally
Mm-hmm.
privileged. And it is one of the things that I think upsets many people in this city. And I appreciate you sharing that because I know your heart and I know you.
Yeah.
That there are many people who are not of color,
Mm-hmm.
and don't want to use the word white,
Sure.
who are not of color, who won't admit that we do have
Privilege.
two Charlottes and privilege in this city. Which is why when I heard the chief yesterday, for the first time ever, say that he understands that Charlotte-Mecklenburg police have a history of racism. I'd never heard that from him. It was the first time I'd ever heard him
Wow.
say that they are not perfect.
Mhm.
Everything out of his mouth is, we make no mistakes. You don't like it, deal with it. So
Yeah.
it's that kind of arrogant, I would say, kind of a police, kind of, I got a badge, it's my way, the highway kind of attitude. It was the first time I heard him sound human.
Sure.
And I appreciated that. And I told the gentleman from the CRC that we need to have, there's an event tonight at AME Zion Church
Zion.
downtown. And then I said, we need to have one of these events also in South Charlotte because we or South Charlotte, we need to hear that too.
Yeah.
We need to hear the police chief tell us what we don't often hear.
Exactly.
That is exactly
Yeah.
what I've been
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
Why do we have to help? Like, we had
Yeah.
2 events after what happened
Yes.
yesterday, today.
Mhm.
I think there's another one going on tomorrow
Yeah.
at Aldersgate.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have to host all those events in the minority
Because
area?
it gives the impression to people who live over here on this side that's their issue. It's
And
an
see,
issue
that-
that they
but see,
we
they
all have to
should.
deal with it.
But as a city officials,
Yeah.
and they're putting it together, and
Well,
Federico, I hope you're
hopefully,
listening
yeah,
to me.
hopefully, Jorge,
They
if you're
can
watching,
get it
you
together
can
in this
get some
area.
things. We need to hear that, and there are people. We're all neighbors. We're all which happen to be. Some of us happen to marry well. I'll admit, if I had not married well, I'd probably live on the west side or east side. Not that that's
Yeah.
not the case, but
He's a trophy husband.
no.
It's true.
I mean, I lived all around Charlotte.
Yes. But my point is, growing up,
Yeah.
all I knew was the Latinx community.
The ghetto.
And so
The homes.
Yeah.
In El Barrio.
yes.
El barrio.
I gotta change the subject really quickly. Anywho,
You know what a barrio
What
is in
is-
English? It's the hood.
yeah, I'm from the hood. I know. It may not seem like I'm from the hood. All right.
Este vato cholo loco.
So one of the things that I heard from the meetings was why didn't the police negotiate with the person, whatever?
Yeah.
And someone made a really good point both Monday night and last night, and I'm sure they will.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is probably a point that people are going to make all the time. We have to acknowledge the fact that there are mass shootings at schools that are predominantly young white men who do them. And it ends one of 2 ways. They either take their own life or the police negotiate with them and they're taken to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they kill
Lots of
mass
Masses.
people.
Yep.
that same type of privilege doesn't occur with people of color.
I
Mm.
totally agree with you.
It ends by death.
Yes.
There is no,
I totally
there's,
agree.
and that's the thing that when they said it like that, it made, I didn't understand that way. Also, to the point about the police officers, I continue to hear, and one of the things that we benefit from is we attend events all around the city. There are people who don't take the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear CMPD and when I hear some of our elected officials, specifically our mayor, it is a different conversation when it happens in neighborhoods of color than at the Ballantyne Hotel in South Charlotte. Whenever we hear CMPD talk at the Ballantyne Hotel in Chief Putney, it is, we need to be held accountable, we want to be transparent, our professional men and women, and it's all about professionalism. When I hear them speak in neighborhoods of color, it is, this is a tough job, can any of you take this, do any of you want this same job? They would never
Now
say
you
that on
mention-
this side of town because we would say, well then don't take the damn job. It is your job.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
all jobs are tough. Being a single mom is a
It's
tough
tough.
job. Being a firefighter is a tough. They're all tough jobs. Being a congressperson is a tough job. Being a city councilman, being a mayor. When I hear the mayor say there are difficult decisions that I'm sorry. I've got to do this. This is her.
We have a guest. We have a guest who's going to comment on this.
There are difficult decisions that I must make, and my response is, yes, honey. Being elected is a tough job. Did you not think about that before you ran for office? And I know that it irks me.
Let's wrap this up because
Yes.
Well-
because going forward, I believe that the Citizen Review Board is going to be looking at this, right?
But the
And
Citizen
that's-
Review Board has very little teeth.
Limited.
that's right, but they're at least going to review it,
Yeah.
which means they're going to collect the facts and they're going to come up with some recommendation. And
Something that I want to know.
I think we can be somewhat confident
Sure.
in Julie Isel who I think is
Julia,
no special
No
effects
comments.
department. Chris Rose just rolled his eyes.
Something
but,
that I just want to make sure, and I
Drink.
really like Julie. She knows that
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
care for her.
I like Julie.
But it's not
If-
her
if-
only job. You
That-
know,
that-
it's not
that's
her
fine.
job for her.
I like
I'm just
Julie.
saying that going forward, that's where a lot of the
Something-
action should
okay.
be in reviewing.
When
this
you
case,
mention right now,
Yeah.
Citizens Board,
Yeah.
Review Board.
Yeah.
Something that I'm very, very anxious to know about
Mhm.
is how come this took place March 25th.
Mhm.
Our mayor came out on Monday morning
Mhm.
at a round conference right there
After the judge had said.
after the judge
Mhm.
released the video
Got
or
her-
approved it.
Got her hair did.
Yeah.
Everyone
You know,
noticed her hair was
she
done
comes
nice
out
for
and
the cameras.
says,
Yep.
I have not seen the video.
Yes.
I'm counting as a community that you're representing me.
Yes.
I'm counting as you're my eyes in the city because, you know, I voted for you to sit there and review things prior to come out and speak on a press conference saying,
Exactly.
I have not seen the video.
Exactly.
That is not right. I don't feel that we were well informed. And I'm sorry I have to say this. And I mean, I might like you and stuff, but I mean, let's be honest, as your leadership, as a leader
Mhm.
of the city, as a mayor, you know, you don't just come out and say, I have not seen the video.
Well,
I'm 100% you probably did. You just didn't know how to word it.
Yeah. Well, I think it came across as it was, however it came across, it was to those of us when she said that was kind of like, well, then why even comment if you haven't seen the video?
Yeah.
Why
I really
even
felt
comment
that.
on that?
I really
take
felt
the
that.
time to watch. Anyway,
Because
I-
it's 10 o'clock
I
in the
understand what you're
morning,
saying.
it comes
Yeah.
out at 2, and then
Yeah.
y'all don't know what to say after that
Yes.
because the video is out there.
Yeah.
You should at least prepare us. You know what?
Yeah.
We understand.
Yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes. You know, it's going to
The-
be hard.
Yeah.
The mayor seems to have the same talking points as Chief Putney, and it is cover my behind. I don't want to say anything that could get me possibly. And I understand that is a skill set that I have said that may be good for a mid-level management person, but not for a leader of an organization. And I said this about that comment. Can you imagine if the CEO of Bank of America, if they had a shooting at Bank of America Tower, and then the CEO went in front of the cameras and said, now, I haven't seen the security cameras, but I want to say there was nothing wrong by the Bank of America people, did anything wrong, and this, we'd be going, well, you haven't seen the security camera. Wouldn't you look at the security cameras first before you made a comment? Or something? And that is, it came across as very amateurish, but I think that is how she has handled the ICE raids. That's how she's handled getting rid of the climate committee. It is disappointment after disappointment. And what I heard Monday night, and I also heard in our neighborhood of color yesterday, and
Our breakfast
we'll see
morning.
heard tonight, many people asking for the resignation of our chief of police and of our mayor. And I heard that, and I clapped, because I'm one who believes, regardless of whether she's our first African American female mayor, she has to be held accountable for either leadership or lack of leadership. The same standard was put to Jennifer Roberts. When she was mayor. And
The same thing as Fox, the same thing as others.
yes, and so there have been many people that have been a little hesitant to be critical of her because she was or is our first African American female mayor, because they're afraid that they may be considered to be against a woman or whatever, whatever.
So her instincts are a little more
Yes.
bureaucratic.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. Jeff, I'm glad you
Thank
said
you,
that.
Jeff.
That's really what I'm
Thank
trying
you
to
for
say.
having Jeff here. Yes.
And I think
Happy to provide.
that's good if she was an employee of the city, but not
Yeah.
as an elected official.
Right.
I'm glad you said it that way,
Yeah.
because that's really
But
what
now
I'm
keep
trying
in
to say.
mind,
Yeah.
as a mayor, you don't have enough power.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
She's only a vote tie breaker.
Yes.
So she
Okay.
doesn't have enough, here in our city, she doesn't have enough voice. She's just a,
But she
I
has a
would say,
voice. But she still has a voice. She can still say.
Yeah, and I don't.
that's the way she doesn't
I
say
don't know
like
what
that.
sort of pressure she
Yeah.
would be under to feel like she made such a big mistake that she would resign. Again, it's
I'm not.
it's the survival instincts in a large
Well, to your point
organization
from last week,
in- yeah.
I don't think she should resign. The voters will make the determination
Yeah, that's
in the
right.
next election.
Voters-
But the
Well-
police chief is an employee of the city,
That's right.
and the city manager, and he serves at the will of the people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we saw how he handled the Keith Lamont Scott situation and the Charlotte Uprising and how that was completely mishandled by CMPD. To this day, they have never accepted any responsibility. It's all the fault of the citizens, fault of the citizens. We've seen how he has responded to the barricades for the ICE raids and so
Okay,
forth.
but see, it's similar.
Yeah.
Both cases. When I'm thinking about Steve Lamont.
But we didn't see the video on that one. He didn't release the video on that one. We saw the video.
We saw the
so that makes
video
us question.
for we saw the other video, the videos that other ones
Yes, other
took,
people, yeah.
but not the release. And see, we should demand on the video of that one as well because they're both similar to it.
Well, I think all body cameras should be released. I think the public. I understand that it. We would be subject if something like that happened to us. They would release. They should be held. Anyway, I've said what I have to say.
If I go into the
we're
courthouse,
repeating ourselves.
we're repeating
if I go
Yeah.
into the courthouse, I'm either getting rid and I have a nail polish. Either you throw it away, take it to your car, but you're not going in
Well,
because
what-
I am considered high risk carrying a weapon.
Well, at the least, people need to be. Yes, at the least, people need to be disciplined for what occurred.
Of course.
Not only because of the shooting, and you are correct. My heart does go out to
yeah.
To
the
everyone.
victim and the person who killed the individual, because of what her life is going to go through for a mistake that she made, for the lack of training that she received from our police department, from the lack of it was like Barney Fife. It was like,
But she needs to be
it was like
convicted.
crazy, and it was like I was nervous watching it.
She needs to be
I was
charged
nervous.
as a murder.
But also the gentleman who did not have his body camera on either was in violation of policy. There's a lot of violations, I think, that were occurred, and so it is unfortunate that we're having to talk about this in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. But is there any silver lining to this before we move to?
No, let's close it.
Well,
I
we
mean,
can all push for responsible gun laws,
Yes.
and the silver lining is, as a community, we step up as advocates and we ask for more
Accountability.
responsible
Yep.
gun laws.
That's right. More transparency in government.
yes,
Yep.
and one of the things,
Or
Jeff,
no,
and we will.
no BS.
So this is a perfect time to talk about our buttons. Your non-button is
Medicare for all for today.
Medicare for all.
Woo!
All right. I have
We
a
need
Medicare
that.
for all. Wendell
Oh, you
Potter
had
was
it.
here last week. Wonderful conversation that he had. He had a lot of events.
Who?
This is Wendell Potter. He's
Oh,
a
that's
gentleman
right.
who's-
Yeah.
was here Friday, pretty
And
much all day
Saturday,
Friday.
yeah.
Mine is, this is from a church, but the reason I have this is because I realized this week when the releasing of the video, there's something about Holy Week, for those who celebrate Holy Week in Charlotte, that always makes me nervous. During Holy Week several years ago, our North Carolina General Assembly passed HB2. It happened during Holy Week, the holiest week.
Yeah.
This video was released during Holy Week. The Notre Dame Cathedral burns down in Holy Week. I would like to not be in Charlotte next Holy Week because it seems like every time I'm in Charlotte, Holy Week,
It's
something.
a bad pattern
Yeah.
developing.
And I know I'm not a superstitious individual, but I realized that I was like, my goodness gracious. Normally, Holy Week is supposed to be it's the holiest
Peaceful.
week
Yeah.
that my faith
Right.
celebrates, and it's supposed to be a celebration of Christ being risen on Saturday or whatever.
Sunday, whatever.
Shows you how much I know. Yes, and so
It's very important. I just
yes.
can't remember which day of the week it happened.
so anywho, that's what my this is celebrating equality marriage when this situation was occurring after HB2 and so forth. And what is your button?
It's just goes along with my WikiLeaks mug
WikiLeaks.
here. It's no bullshit, and it's just I guess this Easter week, what's really on my mind is the arrest of Julian Assange and the fact that he's now in a sort of a maximum security spot in London, and it's really a shame what's happening to him. I intend to write up a short press release along with Alan
The
Smith,
Green Party
the Green Party
candidate.
candidate,
Okay.
because we're both on the same page about this, and you're not going to hear anything from the Republicans. You're not going to hear anything from the Democrat
What do you think?
candidate.
I mean, it's
Well, I believe that he has accomplished a lot. He's
No,
exposed.
but what do you think they won't say anything about?
Oh, why do I?
Yeah.
Well, because
Well, I know what
there-
Dan won't say anything about.
yeah,
but I'm just saying.
Dan won't say anything about hardly
Yes.
anything. But I think the Republicans don't want to talk about it because
Bless your heart.
they're deep into this. You know, Mike Pompeo wants to call him some kind of terrorist. I can't remember his exact phrasing. A non-state terror actor or something like that. And they're just trying to put the squeeze on him they're trying to tie him to the Chelsea Manning, now Bradley Manning, releases of things that don't put American security services in a very good light. So if you're not familiar with what WikiLeaks did and the things that they exposed,
Google it.
not just about
Yahoo
the
Bing
U.S.
it.
but about other countries
Yeah.
too, about United Nations peacekeepers in Africa, their sexual abuse and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of very important stories that they released, and they were on a big roll in 2010 when Julian was getting pressured. So think about where you stand on that issue.
I think it's gonna come up. I think
Yeah.
he's gonna. I think it's another WikiLeaks, maybe not the same name, but
Yeah.
somebody is gonna prove that there are things
Well,
going on.
I think we're always going to have whistleblowers,
Oh yes,
and we need whistleblowers.
That's
Yes,
right.
we
but
did.
but
Yep.
whistleblowers need an outlet, right?
Yes,
And
Correct.
so
and that was an outlet.
right,
that-
and so WikiLeaks is saying, we have a portal, and you can send stuff to us, and
and
we'll look at
release
it, and we'll redact it in some
Yeah.
cases. We'll make sure that no one's going to lose their life from it if we expose it, and then we're going to put it out there, and we're going to embarrass, the DNC.
Sure.
Mhm.
We're going to
Yeah.
embarrass the Syrian government. We're going to embarrass all of these people who said one thing, did another, screwed over Bernie during the primaries.
Yeah. We wouldn't know about that.
And it
unless
may be
the
and,
WikiLeaks
right, and it
exactly.
may be 2020 is Bernie's revenge.
Well, maybe they can WikiLeak our North Carolina Democratic Party. Uh,
Tara.
On that note, what button do you have?
So,
Well, I can see your button.
moms demand action.
Yes, I have. Moms
For
in action. Yes.
Gun Sense in America, I would encourage you to Google it and join some
Join-
of their. Cano and I attend their events.
Yes.
So my question is to the audience: why do we in Charlotte need to carry guns? Like, I understand. Like, I'm not saying eradicate them completely,
And
but
Mom's Reaction is not.
and they don't want to eradicate
They're not
completely.
anti-gun. They're gun safety. Yes.
Their
Yeah.
gun safety.
They need a reform.
Yeah.
But in Charlotte, I've never owned a gun, and I've never felt like I've needed a gun. Where I can tell you that I have felt like I've needed a gun is when I owned a farm and had to deal with a 6-foot rattlesnake.
Yes, and
Then I
on the
wanted a
boat,
gun.
yeah, no, I understand that, and that was a very good point because last night at the community event, also there was a gentleman whose many veterans were in the audience, and one of them said that he has a license to open carry a gun, and he will not do that as a person of color because
You end up the way this person ended
yes,
up.
because if you're an open carry person of color, you're treated differently than an open carry person
They're at
of
a higher
non-color.
risk.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it is, and he's concerned about that, and those are legitimate questions. One of the things that I want to say is I want to thank everyone who's been joining us today, and those who are going to be joining us later. Len, thank you for joining us. Everyone else who has signed on, and we've been talking about a serious topic, but we've also been trying to not to make light of the video release, but those who have not seen the video, it is available, but I think one of the things that we've talked about is hopefully this will spur all of us from all neighborhoods to demand more accountability, to demand action, and we need to have another show about government, because I was brought up not only with the Constitution, but also my grandfather always reminded me that we are the government. That the government is not this mysterious entity, it's us. So whenever we
It
say
is.
things about the government, we're really talking
Talking
about
about
us.
us.
So,
Right.
and I know when you say government, you don't necessarily mean like an entity, but you do mean, but I understand that, but sometimes, do you have any comment on
Well,
that?
yeah. Let me
Yeah.
break in here
Yes,
and
Bless you.
save you.
yes, thank you.
One of the themes in libertarianism and in constitutional thinking about the way that the Constitution is set up, is that government is occupied by individuals, you know, and those individuals have their own desires and needs. I mean, we just talked about V. Lyles and her and sort of bureaucratic instincts that she might have developed while she was working in government. But there are also a lot of people who want to use government to their own ends, and you know the British think of government as people who should be noble civil servants. They should be looking out for other people. They should be compassionate. They should be reasonably good stewards of public monies and stuff like that. And to a certain extent, there are a lot of people out there who work in government who are like that. So when I'm critical of government, obviously I'm not critical of, you know, from top to bottom every possible employee, you know, because. But I think that, you know, we're very concerned about the incentives that people have to do favors for other people, to help aggrandize themselves, to help keep their jobs, to help get themselves elected, to throw money to their district or throw money to their friends and stuff like that. And so they're when you say that they're us, yes, they are us, and they're subject to the same kind of foibles that everyone is. And so that's why we want to restrict their activity. We want to limit what they can do. They got a specific charter. They're constituted in a certain way. So that's
actually,
what the
we're just paying them for them to do our stuff.
That's right. But they can
like administrative.
They can go overboard, right? And so
and they do,
right. And so my whole program was about government going overboard, whether it's in foreign policy, you know, selling weapons to other countries, all that stuff.
On that note, because we're about to run out of time, do we just very briefly about NCO9 update? Do you want to anything? 30 seconds on that, because we got to jump to the Constitutional Code of the week.
I have the not
do you
NC.
have anything NCO9?
Well, I did attend a primary debate last night.
The Republican
primary debate, and. Let me just say that this was the first one, and some of the candidates that I weren't aware of, that I had never seen in person, some of them were quite poised. I thought that both Stevie Riverbank and Lee Brown were both very poised candidates, very, very capable. I also was very impressed by Fern. I her last name's not coming to me, but she's got a lot of experience. She's elderly at this point, but a senior, yes. And she's very smart and very capable, and you know she seems like a great candidate.
So they've got some good people to be able to choose from to run against you guys.
And so and those are I didn't meet any of them in the past. I mean, I know Stoney, and Stoney was good. Stoney is very composed. He sort of lost his composure last night, but he's very direct. He's very amiable with the crowd. He's a charm. Of all he's the charmer, and you might be surprised. You look at pictures of him in the Boss Hog stuff,
I'm not surprised.
And you go, he's a rough guy. He's tough. He's probably edgy, but he is a charmer.
Just as Stoney is not as caricature as the Boss Hog thing that they're trying to character. Right. I admit, Dan McCready is not as doofus as he looks as well. He's a smart. I mean,
that's right.
He's a smart guy.
We want to exaggerate their flaws because it makes good
and
CafeYPanDulce.
And I'm not as fat as the Charlotte Observer portrays me to be. On that note, I do want to say before we read the Constitutional Quote of the Week, we received an email, and you gave me some really good advice about this email. It was from two white female Democrats about fundraising, and it was talking about the Vote Born Alive bill that they wanted us to SB 359 and 602 that Governor Cooper has said that he would veto. It is the abortion born alive bill, and I had replied back. You know what I replied. Thank you for the advice you gave me. However, I do think it's interesting that whenever, and I continue to say this, when it affects white women, our Democratic Party are up in arms. When it affects anyone else, I don't get emails like that. I wish I had received. That was really what I was trying to say, but I understand what you were saying. So and I think it's also a very miscalculation by our Democratic Party to focus on that bill, even though I think he should veto it. To focus on that bill really also alienates the pro-life people within our own party.
Right.
I'm a pro-life
That's
individual.
right. There's a lot of Democrats that are pro-life.
Yes,
yeah.
and when you focus so much on that aspect of it, that's maybe why people voted for Mark Harris.
And I just want to say, just from the point of view of the Libertarian Party of North Carolina, is that it is in our state a pro-life party, and it's about 2/3, I think, and so I'm as a secular candidate, I'm actually in the minority
because we can as human beings and as candidates, whatever we're running for office, we can chew gum and walk at the same time. You can be pro-life and defend a woman's reproductive rights because the Constitution, in my view, in the Congress. So another thing that I want to say,
precedent.
yes, one of the things that I wanted also is many times I don't often give props to Dan McCready. I was encouraged by the very first stance that he's ever taken that I'm aware of was this weekend, and he talked about the email that we received, Republicans, Democrat, Republican, our troops, the independently, yada yada, that kind of. He said 2 big veteran groups, Democrat and Republican, announced the bipartisan on this issue. It was about limiting the War Powers Act of the president, and he supports that. I appreciate the fact that he's actually taken a stance on. I don't know if he is saying he is anti-war or what he's. It was kind of vague.
That's right, but I appreciate that he's
that
adopted
he actually said
my platform.
I almost. It's funny you say it because when I read that, I said, Jeff Scott's been talking about that forever. same as like country over party. I've been using the hashtag country over party. Hashtag country over party on Facebook, and you'll see who uses. I've been using that since January 2017.
Okay, so when I send out my fundraiser on May 15th, I'm going to be talking about what I accomplished in this race so far.
But I appreciate the fact that he's actually, it's one of the first emails that I've seen that he actually took a stance on something. It's not a big stance, but at least he took some kind of stance. Yeah. I don't run his campaign, and people don't really care. And the people who run his campaign, they watch us, and they want to see if I'm making fun of him or whatever. Yeah. Gets them all riled up, which is funny. But the only thing I would suggest to whoever his political strategist is, which is a Hillary person, or I don't know, they're all really young. You can tell they're not very mature. Everything that he says, he uses me, I, my family, me. It's all. It makes him come across as a very selfish individual. He never. If it's something he always has to say, he can't just say, "I'm sad about black men being shot." He can't say something like that. He always has to say, "I don't want my daughters to grow up in a world where black people get shot." It's got to be about him. It's not about the issue. It's about him. There is a strategic strategy to do. I don't know why who they're after. Maybe the selfish people, but in the real world, in the corporate world, we don't say I or we. We say us, they, them, because it's a team effort. With him, he is going to save democracy. He is going to single-handedly cure us from big money. It's either illusions of grandeur or someone who's really doesn't understand that the world is about. So that's that. The last thing I want to say is I have been very impressed. I'm following Libertarians for Immigration Rights and also another group, and they issued this brief on April the 10th that 3 ways new Congress to legalize illegal immigrants.
That's No Rostra and Beer from the Cato Institute.
I read that.
They're smart.
I was very impressed by the stuff they put out about immigrants, and the reason I say that is because our viewers, and our target audience is Latinx individuals, specifically English-speaking Latinx individuals who would like to be educated about politics or community and so forth. We have 4 parties, and take the time to look at which party represents your values. If it's a Democratic Party, which I hope it is, if it's a Republican Party, if it's the Libertarian Party, if it's the Green Party or the Constitution Party, I guess there's 5 parties, or if you want to remain unaffiliated. They all have different platforms, different values, and some of them come to overlap with each other. But I've always been, since you and I have had conversations, I've been very impressed on how, I don't even say progressive you are, because that's not really the term y'all use, but on how educated y'all are about immigration policy and so forth.
Yeah,
so
and
libertarians props.
Cato has really been on top of this, and
even though they were wrong about Medicare for all.
Well,
But
no, they've been on top of this issue,
Yeah.
and they've been very good, and they devote a lot of resources to it, and they communicate it well, and they're just really good, and they're my go-to for immigration
Yeah.
policy.
So props to
Yeah.
the Cano Institute.
Yeah.
Constitution Quote of the Week. Everyone has their.
Yeah.
I don't have it marked, so I
Do you
apologize.
want me to read it?
Well, do you know what one we're on? Because I didn't mark it. You
It
read the
was
last
right here.
It was the 15.
So we're on.
She read the 15 last
So we're on
week.
16.
16.
Okay, so if you want, you don't mind reading number 16? Okay,
She
amendment
likes
number
it.
16.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
how appropriate this
Yes.
week, huh?
Mm-hmm.
The Congress shall have the power
You're
to
reading
lay
English
and
and
collect
Spanish.
taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among several
Mhm.
states and without regard to any census or enumeration.
Oh my goodness! Oh my
Wanna
goodness!
educate that what we turn these around?
1913.
Wait,
A,
before.
a terrible, terrible year. Taxation, the Federal Reserve. You know, we're getting ready to enter the Great War, which caused a lot of carnage throughout the 20th century. Made the 20th century a very bloody, bloody time. So I'm not fond of the 16th Amendment. And we just, of course, we passed Tax Day on April 15th.
Monday.
You know, there is a slogan in the
Which I got
Libertarian
in my
Party.
taxes within 2 hours of the time frame. by the
Hey,
way.
yay.
I was nervous.
Well, you know, I've been doing my taxes for a long time. My wife had a small business, and we've had, you know, complicated tax returns because of real estate properties and stuff like that over time.
And the
So,
yachts.
I'm pretty good at it. So if you do need tax advice,
Yeah, you mentioned you were
You
supposed to
know.
give us tax advice last week. We are out of time here.
Yes, we
and
are,
I want to
but-
thank everyone for joining us. You want to?
Before we leave, I would like to invite everyone. There is going to be a phone conference tomorrow at 4 p.m. There's a couple of nonprofit organizations that are Appalachian, Tennessee, Nashville, Raleigh, here in Charlotte, Comunidad Colectiva. They are all uniting to stop the HB 370.
370. Yes.
So please, I have attached it to our video from today. There's the link. You don't have to travel. You can just join the call and put your input in there.
Which was to my point about the fact the Democratic Party would send that email about the Born Alive bill, but they won't say a word about 370.
70.
And the
So-
fact that the governor
Yeah.
would say, as
and
we
he's
talked about last week,
quiet.
that
Yeah.
won't say anything about protecting our undocumented individuals.
Correct.
So I want to thank everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful Holy Thursday is tomorrow,
Yep.
which is the washing of the feet
Mm-hmm.
for those who celebrate that.
Mhm.
Then Good Friday is on
Mhm.
Friday, so that is the last Friday that you can't eat meat if you practice fasting during, or my version of fasting. And then Holy Saturday, and then sunrise service for some
On
people is on
Easter.
Sunday.
Mhm.
I want to thank you for joining us on Palm Sunday at church on this last Sunday. We had a
It was
small
so much
but
fun.
a great time. Thank you, Melba, for inviting us to your church, Wedgwood, a wonderful, loving church as well. And you've got a show that you do. What days is that?
Mine's are on Tuesdays and it's completely in Spanish. It's
It's
called
Spanish?
Espacio Latino, so everyone's
And you
welcome.
look good on that, by the way. Do they like?
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm not
every-
saying that.
Hey, before we leave, I know we're over time, but we all want to say thank you to Christian.
Oh.
Thank you,
Yay.
especially this special week.
bravo.
Thank you for everything. I know you've been suffering a lot because I've been there with him.
Well,
I know how much he travels. I know how his agenda works sometimes. And he tries to make it on every event that he can, just to be informed and just to be showing presence, showing that that's the way our neighbors should be as a community. And we just want to say thank you.
Well, thank
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Your-
for opening your house,
your-
letting us in.
Your energy and devotion to these causes is
Yes.
truly admirable. So,
Well,
And everything that we do here, you know. So please come and join him because it's awesome to come here every Wednesday.
Well, I appreciate that, but to all fairness, I have to thank my family in my other half because I would not be able
Support.
to do this without the support.
Yes, Andrew, we love you too.
Andrew,
Andrew, cheers for Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
And rumor has it, because he's actually watched our show last week. For those who are watching our show, if you look behind me, there is a picture behind us. And
last week's?
no, that actually is, it's been on every show, and apparently he didn't like that picture.
Oh.
So apparently next week we may be getting a actual print, an actual
okay.
artwork.
Oh, great.
We have
awesome.
a friend
That's
of
great,
ours,
yeah.
his name is Rob Harris.
Yeah.
He is an artist here in Charlotte, and it's got amazing work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we only own 2 pieces that are like original art. Everything else is like a print.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're kind of cheap. But we actually
I was
may
gonna
be
think of
investing. We may actually be investing in a Rob Harris piece of art that is
Aw.
going to be sitting there. I don't know what it is, but he's got some great work. So so those who we may be having that. And the reason I jokingly say that is because he also.
I saw that.
We have to put this on the table now because he noticed a little scratch.
Oh my goodness.
And he said,
Sorry.
"It is a tablecloth."
You're so
Andrew,
sick.
you are welcome to come in and kind of be one of our guests as well,
No,
please.
he's not a front of the camera kind of guy.
No.
So as we go, let's see if we can get the music. Alexa,
Alexa.
play Pandora Ranchera. Alexa, play Pandora. Oh. Alexa, play Pandora Ranchera.
Share radio from Pandora.
Yay! Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Please, in this, you may want to say why go and be the director.
Try to go to all informational forums this week. There's a couple of them. There's an immigration debate tomorrow at Elders Gate from 6:30 to 8:30. Tara, are you going anywhere this weekend or this week?
I go everywhere. That's a hard
Remember,
question.
She's Cano too.
420 on Saturday in Garner, North Carolina. So 420, Charlotte normal, state normal. 420 is a
Explain
very
that.
important day.
Explain what that means.
Well, the 420 comes from.
It's a police code.
Oh,
Is it?
Oh, I don't know.
what the
No, we
origins
gotta
of
find
it.
out.
We'll find out.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but that is the day that
Yeah.
they usually have an event
That's
for
right.
cannabis.
Marijuana
Marijuana
laws.
laws.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reform group.
I will give a shout out to Dim Good Times. It's at Hickory Tavern,
Yeah.
and
That's tonight.
Yeah.
Thursday, April 18th,
Thursday, April 18th.
5
Tomorrow.
to 7.
And then the event tonight at AME Zion about the community. There's
Tomorrow, Elders Gate.
Elders
with,
Gate.
Social media.
That's right.
Saturday, we having a Imagine on a book fair for the Latinos.
okay.
Motivating all the Latin arts. Go and listen to the poets and books
Excellent.
and all that. Margarita will be there.
All right. Excellent. Anything else before we sign off?
That's
No,
it.
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.